Hello everybody, we're back again. So in our world it's Friday morning, but we know that people watch this at all times of the day, and also maybe in the night if they can't sleep, maybe Ian, might put them off.
Really desperate on the insomnia stakes, yeah.
Yeah, maybe, yes. So for today's interesting conversation that we're going to have, and I think people will find this interesting because it is something I keep coming up against time and time again. We offer a HR management solution for Dynamics 365, which is not Microsoft Dynamics Human Resources, HR, previously known as Talent. So yes. That's the statement, isn't it? And that's where we're going to go from today. So yeah. What's the difference? Mm-hmm. Why would we do that? And how did we get there as well? I think that's quite a good and interesting journey, isn't it?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And there's quite a story to it, really. And some of it's conjecture, and some of it's not based on but vague bit of fact, I think, really. But
that's good.
I think fundamentally what's available today is a solution that sits on finance and supply chain.
Yes.
Microsoft Dynamics HR. Yes. And then there's a solution that sits on either Dynamics 365 or the Power Apps, effectively.
Yeah.
So fundamentally the same thing these days, but you don't, what I'm saying is you don't need to have sales or customer service or whatever to have this. You can have it completely standalone, licensed by primarily Power Apps.
Yes.
But why is there a difference? Well, I think what happened was within what was then finance operations, AX finance operations, there was an element of people involved in there in terms of we've got to employ these people, they are a cost, and blah, blah, and they come with other things like they will not be available on occasions because they're on leave and what have you, which has an impact on deliverables and what have you around the whole finance and supply chain environment. Okay. And we did spend some time looking at that, and we did spend some time working up how we could implement that for customers. But the thing was, it's very much from the AX finance operations, finance and supply chain area, which isn't us as a business. We don't work in that arena. There's some really good partners that do, and so therefore, the mindset around how you deploy that kind of project sits in there. It's a bit like project operations as well, which is now firmed in finance and supply chain. Okay.
Yeah.
Now all our customers are either on the Power Platform or in Dynamics 365, which is why when we turn to Hubdrive and their solution, which grew out of the old customer engagement area, it fits very much more in our mentality, our customization configuration point of view, and fits alongside what we supply to customers anyway, like sales and customer service and so on. So that's kind of that's where the history of it almost came from.
Yeah.
It also really defines who it works for. So.
Yes.
A much larger organization that is in that finance and supply chain arena, yeah, brilliant. You want, I've always thought that you can put all these great platforms in place to manage all these different workloads, but without the people, it just doesn't work. So you should have something in there that's about the people. And so HR in terms of finance operations, HR for Dynamics from Hubdrive, from us, what have you, I think it's really, really important for lots of different reasons. We can perhaps go down that rabbit hole in a minute, but yeah, I think that's, in a nutshell, that's where it is today. Although you've been doing some interesting stuff which kind of crosses over between those two, haven't you, from Hubdrive and...
Yeah, I mean, Hubdrive obviously are very savvy. They're part of the ISV program for the Microsoft ISV program, so their solutions are available on AppSource, and we partner with them to implement, because it isn't always straightforward, and you do need a bit of understanding of the HR world and the Dynamics 365 world, because there are workflows and things like that, and also in a way of engaging with the HR department as well, because they're the people who are going to be using it in the end, and they are not techies in the main. I mean, there must be some out there, so I couldn't say, hand on heart, there are no techie HR managers, but I'm sure they're less than actually really engaged with people and interested in people's well-being and making sure that the people side of the business is well taken care of. But yes, so Hubdrive are very cognizant of this, so I think that's one of the reasons why they built it on this platform, and I think it's a great move. But they also know that Microsoft Dynamics Human Resources, which was talent, had an attract and onboard part of the solution, which has been deprecated now. And so there is a gap. If you're running that solution, there is a gap. And for that, then you can actually have a standalone recruiting part. Essentially, it's apart from the solution that you're running on CE, but it will sit on top of human resources and connect to Outlook and all the other ways that it should be connecting for that world. So those extensions are around things like recruitment, and you get a recruiting portal with that, or time and attendance, which is around the timesheets and the scheduling, the resourcing, the cost centers, the projects that you're running essentially within this solution. They're called processes. You could decide, how much of your hours will go to that process. All of those things are sitting in time and attendance, and then there's of course leave and absence, which actually includes, I believe, the portal that allows the employees to self-serve, so to request time and absence, because I know there was a period where that wasn't in Microsoft HR, and I'm not entirely sure if they've gone down that road yet, or how fully fledged that is, let's put it like that. So these extensions are allowed to bolt onto Microsoft HR, so that if you're in the world, you still get all of that functionality as well. But my sense is very much that when people come to us, they're confused by the terms being so closely linked. And essentially we are talking about a platform, and we're talking about the Dynamics platform, but it's a different flavour. And I know when I came into this world, that confused me, that there were these kind of different, built on different platforms, but called the same name. So
I think you're right. There is that confusion out there, and I mean, we still get it when we talk to people about finance and operations. Is that finance and supply chain, or is that business central? Oh, so what? You've got two things to do the same thing. How does that work? And you're telling us they all sit on this common data model, Dataverse, and all that. Yeah, it is. But okay, let's talk about what your needs are, and then it's our job to match that with what's available in the toy box, as it were. Just going back to your point previously, the HR piece now in finance operations does have the apps now for booking leave, what have you, which is a big step forward. And I think, especially with millennials these days, if it's not on the phone, it doesn't exist. So that has to be the way that you manage that process. The recruitment side is actually really interesting, actually, because obviously the war, and Microsoft uses the term, the war on talent is out there, and we find that the recruitment piece, which gives you that portal, gives you the ability to, if you're a large organization, to run internal recruitment, because you can post that onto your own intranet, that type of environment, or to your website, so you can attract people. It actually also works for embedded in recruiters within a larger organization, but also we see that search organizations are using it now as well. So it has a huge amount of potential there around drawing that talent in, but also the whole onboarding piece in there, which I think is so critical these days. When you make an appointment, when you make an offer to somebody, you've got to start that engagement process for two reasons, really. One is to make them feel that they're part of the new organization from day one, and so that when they start, they have that confidence, they understand who their line manager is, what their roles is, where they go to get their expenses, whatever it is, they feel part of that process. I've started a few jobs now. Is first you walk in the first morning, people go, "Who are you?" And you go, "Oh, great," you know.
That was the bad old days, wasn't it? I hope.
Bad old days. Who are you? It's better sit in the corner and pull up a chair, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's, you know, that onboarding piece is really quite critical these days, and that process is built into the platform as well. I want to go back to the HR bit you mentioned there as well, about the HR manager. I think these days, as well as obviously the requirement for an HR manager to be mindful of the people that are employed in the organisation and their well-being and their promotion and their achievements and what have you, there's obviously a requirement on the HR team to support the company, the management or the organisation, and the whole compliancy thing. And if you unpick those two items, one is, you know, have we got the right talent in the business for the business to grow in the right direction? And again, the platforms help that with the talent searches and all that kind of good stuff in there, and also the matrix around potential. But the other important thing was is it coming off from compliancy, you know? So the security of where personal documents are, personal data is kept, removing the data at key points when you have to, because people no longer work for you, but you still need to keep certain records for a certain number of years and that type of thing. The compliancy around making sure people's certifications up to date and what have you, that's all in there as well. So it's not just knowing somebody's name and with their bank details. You know, there's a lot more to it than just that. And these systems, you know, give you that security and a surety around it as well.
I agree, Ian, and I think that's one of the things that I really like about this solution. It does offer the opportunity to really take care of people in a 360 way, but also the business as well in a 360 way. But I just want to kind of pull it back to our original start of the conversation, where we talked a little bit about Microsoft Dynamics Human Resources, which of course is licensed in the usual way that you would license a Microsoft solution there. But there's a difference, because our solution, the solution we're promoting today, is the one that we implement from Hubdrive. Because it sits on CE or the Power Platform, then you need a platform license, so access to the platform and the storage there for the actual solution to be put up on. And then you need the IP licensing, which is built around functional roles and links into security roles to enable privacy settings and enable the fact that you only see the information you're allowed to see, and you're only allowed to interact with the information that belongs to you. If you're a line manager, yourself, the people below you. If you're an employee, just yourself. If you're a HR manager, the global access to everything that's on there. So I think one of the places that I know it gets confusing for people when they're trying to think about this solution is, how is it licensed? And I'd like to be clear about this. If you already have a Dynamics 365 solution, you do not need to get the Access platform licensing for any of the users that are licensed to use that. That's it, isn't it?
Statement.
But if you don't have it, then you only need, depending on numbers, there are breakpoints here, but smaller businesses can work with an enterprise license and then Power Apps for the rest of the people to access the platform. But everybody, regardless of that, on top of that, will need an IP license to enable the functionality to see the information they need to see. And I wanted to take this event to talk about that, just to get really, really clear about it, because it gets confusing. Microsoft licensing is confusing enough anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. I think just to reinforce that, as you say, the 3 levels of licensing. So HR directors see everything. A line manager needs to know about the people they are managing. So how much leave they got left? Have they all had a review recently? You know, what are the leave requests that are coming in and that type of stuff? That's fine. And then the individuals. Now, what I do like about it is the self-service bit. So there's a self-service portal which people see on their phones, and they can book their leave, they can put HR requests in, they can see with their targets, that type of stuff, and that's really empowering. But there are environments where you don't even need that, in which case it's a staff license. So you're recording information about the staff, but they need no licensing, because they're not going to access it whatsoever. And there are still environments for that. So, for example, that discussion we had the other day about the shipping company.
Yes.
The people on the ship would not be interacting with this platform. But you need to know about the people on the ship, because you need to make sure they've got first aid at sea certificate and their RT certificate still invalid and all that kind of good stuff, and who their relief is when that trip finishes and so on. So they just have a staff license, and that's cheap as chips. Yes. So, you know, it does sound complicated, but in actual fact, it is about roles. It is about the amount of data access requirements and that type of stuff, and we can help that. And some of it's embedded licensing as well, which is even cheaper, and so on. So, you know, I think we can very quickly put together some numbers for people, but it's not an expensive option, but it does bear fruit very quickly because of that compliancy thing, that central data of information. It's not unusual for us to come across a company, isn't it, where they've got 10 or more spreadsheets to run.
Absolutely, absolutely. Spreadsheet help.
Every one is a threat to that data security around an individual's personal data. I mean, it's, you know, that's not uncommon, is it?
No, not at all. And various apps. App for this and app for that and app for that. You know, when you have these areas of focus, I don't want to call them modules because they're not separate, but areas of focus within the solution, such as, you know, time and attendance, leave, recruitment, talent management, training, for example, and then that sits on top of this wonderfully well-built administrative part that is around, you know, employment terms, you know, and that can be global. It doesn't have to be just for one country. You can set up various templates for that. Once that bit's done, then it's very good to use, I think. But I think we're rapidly coming to the end of our time, aren't we? Yeah, well over today. But it's an important video, and it's one that we're actually going to be using for ourselves within our own sales process, because we want to make this as easy as we can for people. And sometimes hearing it is a lot easier to understand than reading it.
Yeah. I think also we got a presentation next week, I think, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Well done for remembering. That's the other reason for us being here, isn't it? Yes, so that will be March the 3rd, I believe, 11 to 11:45. So not a huge time out of your day. But any HR managers out there listening to this, or suppliers of software into HR managers, come on the call, because you'll hear Ian and Jason talking about how digitizing HR is going to help you get rid of all those spreadsheets, help you feel more secure about your data, help you sleep at night, probably as well.
Yeah, indeed. So if you want to get onto that, give us a shout on the call to actions at the end of the video that Katie will put up there. Brilliant.
Great.
All right. I think we're there.
I think we're there. Thanks, Ian.
Good to see you, everybody.
Bye.